Okay, we're starting Genesis 25 today. We're finishing up, we're just putting the final touches on Abraham's life, and then a totally new section of Genesis will begin. So last time we left off with the death of Sarah, and then Isaac taking Rebekah as his wife, and just the way that God provided for him through there. And now we'll pick it up with Genesis 25, and we'll finish up there. And Rob Roy, would you do the honor and read verses 1 to 6? This is Genesis 25.
Okay. Abraham took another wife whose name was Keturah. She bore him Zimran, Jokshan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Jokshan fathered Sheba and Dedan. The sons of Dedan were Ashurim, Letushim, and Lenuim. The sons of Midian were Ephah, Epher, Hanok, Abida, and Elda. All these were the children of Keturah. Abraham gave all he had to Isaac, but to the sons of his concubines, Abraham gave gifts. And while he was still living, he sent them away from his son Isaac, eastward to the east country.
All right. So Sarah has died. Now we to the Abraham takes another wife. That is Keturah, her name is. We're told in other passages that she is, and in this passage too, that she's really a concubine for him. So I don't know the difference between the wife and a concubine. I don't know if anybody knows what that is.
I thought a concubine was more of a mistress.
Yeah. I'm looking at verse 6. Is it saying that he had concubines besides Keturah, his wife?
Well, Hagar would have been a concubine. I think the difference is that they sort of are the wife is that kind of oneness, the union that has rights, I'm thinking, and inheritances, whereas a concubine is sort of second tier. They don't get that kind of rights. It's
but I'm just saying Keturah, I don't think Keturah was a concubine from that text. Do you?
Well, in this text, she's described as a wife, but later on, it says in First Chronicles 132, it says the sons of Keturah, Abraham's concubine.
Oh, okay.
First Chronicles 132 describes her as a concubine.
All right.
So here she's described as a wife, which is interesting. So
it sounds like every kid, once they get to a certain age, he gave them something and shipped them out.
Yeah, so they don't get the inheritance. I mean, he'll take care of them.
I understand they don't get the inheritance part, but what I didn't get was that it seems like, doesn't it say they sent them all away?
Yeah, these are all children. He gave them gifts, and he sends them away from his son Isaac. Yeah. So these are like, I guess, would Keturah be Abraham's baby mama? Is that what it's called today? He's got, so it's not his wife, but he's got kids by her. So let's talk about those. There's some names there that, well, there's at least one name you should recognize.
Yeah.
He has 6 kids. There's Zimram, Jokshan, Midian. What were the other ones? Ishbak.
And Shua.
And Shua. Now, you should know at least one of those names.
Yeah, Midian.
Yeah, Midian. Where do we see who is a Midianite in the Bible that's kind of famous?
Well, Moses goes back to Midian when he leaves Egypt, and he finds his wife amongst the Midianites.
Yeah. Do you remember what was Moses' father-in-law's name, if you remember?
Oh,
Begins with a J. It's
yeah, Jethro. Thank you. How can I forget Jethro, that? Beverly Hillbillies.
Yeah, father-in-law and he plays a prominent role in that. So there is that connection, which is why perhaps why Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, would have seem to have a decent knowledge of the Lord, given that he is a descendant of Abraham by blood as well. So, all right. So these guys will come out, and then we have a few more from them, sons of Midian. But the main thing we're told is that regarding these sons, so there's no confusion here. As we mentioned here, these sons of Keturah, of Abraham through Keturah, what becomes of them? Are given gifts and sent away. Why is that significant?
Well, there's only one heir that God has promised to bless him with,
Yeah.
nations and be blessings for nations and what have you, and it needs to keep that clear.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, absolutely. So there are Abraham has many sons, but only one heir. And that is Isaac. That's very clear from the text. So there's no confusion because this story of salvation, it really is it's banking on the son of Abraham. We need to know who is the son of Abraham. We're going to keep an eye on that person because that's the one through whom salvation will come. So when we're looking for our sake, it's important because salvation will come through Isaac. That's where the blessings will come. All right, he sends them eastward and they go east. You'll notice again, that seems to be the direction when people are sent off, right?
And that means away from God.
Yeah, sort of. It's the West is is not in that God has forsaken them, that there's nothing for them, but that clearly it's God has determined that it's in the West here that salvation will be coming. So the symbolism of whenever people are being sent from the presence of God, they go east, and when they're returning, they come from the east to the west. The temple, when it's built, has no west gate. It's on the west side of the court there. And everyone must enter in from the east or from the north or from the south. But that's sort of where it is. And, Israel, if you notice, is right up against the Mediterranean Sea. So all of civilization is toward the east from there.
West requires a boat.
Yes. All right. So let's pick it up from there. And the next paragraph, Bob Thomas, you want to get that for us? 7 to 11.
Sure. These are the days of the years of Abraham's life, 175 years. Abraham breathed his last and died in a good old age, an old man and full of years, and was gathered to his people. Isaac and Ishmael, his sons, buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar, the Hittite, east of Mamre, the field that Abraham purchased from the Hittites. There Abraham was buried with Sarah, his wife. After the death of Abraham, God blessed Isaac, his son, and Isaac settled at Beer Lahai Roy.
Yeah. Beer Lahai Roy. All right. So Abraham, we're told, how dies at the age of
175.
75. If you remember, how old was he when he was called?
75.
Yeah, called at the age of 75. How old was he when Isaac was born?
100.
100.
Yeah. At the age of 100. How old was he when Isaac married Rebecca?
140 or something?
Yeah. 140. Just so you know, we'll also find out that it will be the next story. We'll find out it's going to be 20 years before Isaac has kids. So Jacob, born, and it will be 20 years after that. So it'll be the age of 160. So the story is going to be told as if Abraham is dead and then Jacob's born, but it's not the case. There's an overlap here. Abraham is still alive when Jacob is born. He's going to be 160 at Jacob's birth. So he will see that.
You hear so often that how Abraham had to wait from 75 to 100 for the promise to be accomplished. As far as Isaac being born,
Yeah.
man, he had to wait a long time before. Isaac was kind of just hanging around the house, so to speak, till 40 years old. Before
Yeah.
that's even longer.
I mean, just takes their time. I mean, God's promises, and God is just so slow, but he keeps his promises, but he just takes his sweet time with these things. So poor Abraham has got he's barren at the age of they're barren at the age of 75. He's got to wait 25 years before he even gets the first glimpse of hope here. And then when Isaac is about 14, he said he's supposed to kill Isaac, and then he of course doesn't. And then now it's like Isaac is staying in the house for another 30 years. Nothing's happening. Until finally Isaac and Sarah dies and Isaac marries Rebecca. Wonderful. All right, now we're off and running, but then Rebecca's barren, as we're going to see in the next chapter, next passage, for 20 years before Jacob's born. So this is going to wrap up Abraham's story, and Abraham is buried where?
The cave of Machpelah, which is Hebron.
Yeah, in the cave that he purchased, right? And from the Hittites.
To bury Sarah.
Where he buried Sarah. That's going to be, yeah.
The thing that struck me on this is that Ishmael he's over 75 years old at this point, and he was at least close enough to know to come back and help bury his father.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Ishmael is, well, let's see. If he's 175, Isaac is 75 years old.
Right.
When
Ishmael's older than that.
Ishmael would be in his 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't think about that. It's like,
Actually closer to 90, wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess Ishmael was probably.
He was at least 14 years. I think he was around 14 when.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's close to 90 years old. Wow. Okay, so Isaac, 75 years old, and Ishmael, about 90 years old, bury Abraham. Huh. That it's interesting when you get the ages down, it makes you really relook at the picture books from your children's Bible. They always portray them as so young and vibrant, and these are old guys. Like even the love story of Jacob and Rachel, and Jacob's in his like 70s when he meets Rachel. It's like,
wow,
yeah, hold on, take on the story now. And it's not as romantic as we thought it would be.
At this point in my life, I'm not going out looking for another wife.
I know it. So, really, time is an interesting factor in these stories here.
Yeah.
All right. So Isaac settles at Beer Lahai Roy. Do we have a map of that? I don't know if it's on our map. Let me check back here. If we can see Beer Lahai Roy. Is it there anywhere? I don't see it. It's on that map. Okay. All right. All right. Well, let's pick it up from there. Now we just have a quick word about Ishmael. You remember that phrase, we're going to begin with that phrase, these are the generations. That's a new section has begun where we had these are the generations of Terah, and you had Terah briefly mentioned, but then the whole story of Abraham falls under that. And now you have these the generations of Ishmael. And so we have a little brief side story about that. So let's get into that. Jack, you want to read that for us? I hope you're good at names.
Sure. Yeah. These are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's servant, bore to Abraham. These are the names of the sons of Ishmael, named in the order of their birth: Nebaioth, the firstborn of Ishmael, and Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tema, Jetor, Napish, and Kedemah. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names by their villages and by their encampments. 12 princes according to their tribes. It's funny that it's 12.
Hmm.
These are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years. He breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people. They settled from Havilah to Shur, which is opposite Egypt in the direction of Assyria. He settled over against all his kinsmen.
All right. So Ishmael, the last words of Ishmael, he tells us, are what? So he had how many sons? He had 12 sons, princes even. And he lives how long? 137 years. So even there, you know, the age of someone is a sign of God's blessing upon them, and the number of kids he has, signs of God's blessing. And then he settles from Havilah to Shur. Okay, let's see if that's on our map up here. Pull it up. You can find that. Havilah to Shur.
We've seen Shur before.
Yeah, there's Shur. Right here. Okay, so this is the direction, this area here, the kind of these in this area. I'm not sure where Havilah is. Doesn't say it on the map. But that's going to be important for us because, you know, the Joseph story is you get these Ishmaelites who are passing through on their way to Egypt, who will be, so they're kind of these tribes here. So this is their area. What are we told also about Ishmael and his descendants? The last thing he says there.
Where they settled from Havilah to Shur, which is opposite Egypt in the direction. He settled over against all his kinsmen.
Yeah, he settled over against all his kinsmen. What does that mean?
It sounds more like next to him in the neighborhood with them.
Yeah. Let me see if I got a note on that here. So it's Abraham, gave to Isaac, generations of. Because what did he say about back in 1720? Let's go back to Genesis 17:20. And this is sort of a closing the book on Ishmael, but also just showing that God has what God had promised back in chapter 17, he's fulfilled here. So 17:20.
How did they define princes in that day? I mean, were they sons of kings?
Yeah, they would be. So the assumption is that the princes would be sort of the royal family. So they would be, you know, whether it's tribes or nations. It's hard to determine how things were settled back then, but.
So was Ishmael a king of anywhere, any land at that time?
Well, yeah, Ishmael would have been like the settler, the founder of a nation here, or of a peoples or a tribes. Now they could be sort of like I'm not sure if they were nomadic tribes, if they actually owned any property. It sounds like they were more like nomadic people. But even so, they had a sense of identity of a status as a people. And Ishmael being the founder, they would be called Ishmaelites, and then his sons would be sort of princes, and that they would be sort of the rulers, the heirs of this tribe, so, you know, the royalty of it.
Isn't it Ishmaelites who take off with Joseph?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
On the road?
Yeah, so I don't know that the Ishmaelites like had their own property. Like Esau, we'll find out, will have his own nation, Edom. And and Lot has the Ammonites and the Moabites come from him, and they have sort of their territories. I'm not sure if Ishmael had a defined territory or if they were more nomadic tribes. Because if you look on that map, there sure is sort of in that desert middle area between Egypt and Israel. So that's sort of these nomadic kind of tribes. But when the Lord came to Hagar, when she on the way to Shur, so if you remember, the angel of the Lord found her. This is back in Genesis 17. Hagar is kicked out with she's pregnant and she has been cast out. She runs away. She hasn't been cast out, she runs away. And she's fleeing Sarah, and it's on the way to Shur that she is fleeing. She heads toward Egypt. Because remember, why does she go in that direction? Why would Hagar go in that direction? Do
She
you
was from
remember?
Egypt.
She's Egyptian, yeah. She's going to be going back to her homeland, so that's why she heads toward Egypt. And he says, I will surely multiply your offspring. Behold, you're pregnant, you'll bear a son, he shall be called Ishmael. He'll be a wild donkey of a man, his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he shall dwell over against all his kinsmen. So it doesn't sound like he was at peace with the other nations, and all the sons of Abraham that kind of settle different areas. Midian has their own land. It sounds like the Ishmaelites were a little bit of a wild group.
Yeah, I've got like some notes in my Bible.
Yeah.
It says pitch the camp literally fell. The same Hebrew verb is used in Judges 7:12 in regard to the hostile encampment of Bedouin tribes. The present passage shows the fulfillment of the prediction contained in Genesis 16:12.
Okay. So hostile encampment, it describes, of the Bedouin tribes.
Yeah, it's even the wording in the translation. It sounds like when it says opposite, it doesn't mean like close to. The way I read here, it could have been read as close to his kinsman, but it's actually, according to this, he's not. They're not. It's not a good relationship.
Yeah.
It's an adversarial relationship with the kinsman.
Yeah. So he's not at peace with his kinsmen, the other descendant sons of Abraham.
Yeah, the NASB says he settled in defiance of his relatives.
Okay. That's going to be interesting, and I think that's going to be important, because I believe it will show some of the depravity of Esau when he not only takes Canaanite wives, but he also will take an Ishmaelite wife, if I recall correctly here. So these are not considered, even though they are blessed because of the connection with Abraham. He has a nation, he has a people, he has 12 sons, he lives a long life. Yet even so, there is this hostility with Isaac that goes following, and that's going to be a pattern throughout the scriptures, where we have this conflict of brothers. We have the chosen brother who is blessed of the Lord, and then the one who is then hostile toward that brother. So Cain and Abel, it begins with. You have Noah's sons battling it out between Shem and Ham. You've got Isaac and Ishmael. You're going to have Jacob and Esau, this kind of pattern of hostility.
Isn't that part of the map? When they were leaving Egypt, didn't Moses have to bring them down through the Red Sea because he felt that they took the short path up through there, that they would want to turn back because of the battles they might run into?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. God kind of leads them down south, they would never travel that way otherwise, but he takes them down south where there's no one there. He has to sustain them with water and bread through supernatural means in order to keep them alive in that part of the wilderness. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right with that. He does not take them through there would be great hostility. There would be, especially if they're coming, think about it, they're coming out of Egypt. They're slaves. There's a lot of them, but they're just former slaves. They're not like trained warriors. And they're coming out with lots of possessions as well, so which makes them an easy target for Bedouin tribes that are gonna, try to raid and take their stuff. So, yeah. All right, let's pick it up there. Now we pick up the new section here. So that's Ishmael, the generations of Ishmael. And now we begin the generation of Isaac. And what's interesting is that this is going to be the story of the generations of Isaac. Isaac is just the starter, but he's not the star of the show. It's going to be Jacob is the main character in these stories, but it's the generations of Isaac. Just like with Terah, the father of Abraham, it's his generations, but Abraham is the focus. Same thing here. Isaac is the start of it, but it's really the main focus is going to be on Jacob when it gets going there. So let's see. Bob Fowler, you want to get the next section for us down to 23? Hold up there.
These are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham fathered Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the Amin of Padam Aram, the sister of Laban, the Amin, to be his wife. And Isaac prayed to the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And the Lord granted his prayer, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. The children struggled together within her, and she said, "If it is thus, why is this happening to me?" So she went to inquire of the Lord, and the Lord said to her, "Two nations are in your womb. The two peoples from within you shall be divided, and one shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger."
Okay. All right. So, generations of Isaac. As we set it up here, what is our information we're told here? Isaac is how old?
40.
40 years old when he marries Rebekah. And we're reminded that she is the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean of Padan Aram, the sister of Laban, the Aramean, to be his wife. And it's all part of Abraham's family. Who is Bethuel? Well, Bethuel, if you remember, is the son of Nahor, is Abraham's brother. So this is all in the family here. And Laban is her brother. He's going to become a main character later on. So she's described, she is the daughter of Bethuel, the sister of Laban. Okay. All right, so what happens next in our story here? What's the problem with Rebekah?
She's barren.
Rebekah is barren. That seems to be the theme here. How often has we seen this story where the one whom God has chosen is a barren woman? Again, to show that this is of the Lord. This is not a natural thing. This is, I think almost in every scene, Sarah was barren, and then now Rebekah is barren. In this case, there's a couple things that are very interesting here. What does it say happens next? So Rebekah's barren. So what does Isaac do?
Praise.
Yeah. And he prays to the Lord. That's important because he doesn't pray to other gods. He prays to the Lord for his wife. And we're told the Lord grants his prayer, and Rebekah conceives. All right, now what happens? So Isaac prays to the Lord. The Lord gives her children now in her womb. And what's going on now?
Not a
Sibling
good pregnancy.
Say again?
It's not a good pregnancy.
Something's happening inside of her, yeah. She is, there's children here. The boys are wrestling in her womb. And so Rebecca, it says, inquires of the Lord. So, and then the Lord speaks to her. So now what we're given is the word of the Lord is becoming to Rebecca. And that's going to be very important. You know, faith comes from hearing the word. If there is no word from the Lord, then biblical faith is not present. There has to be some kind of a word, and faith is believing the word of the Lord. So this is the word of the Lord to Rebecca, which is the word of the Lord for this family. And you're going to see now how everything is going to play out in accordance with the word. And there'll be some who are working against that word and some who are working in favor of that word, trusting him. So she inquires of the Lord, and the Lord speaks. What's the word of the Lord to her?
2 nations are in you.
Okay. So we'll start there. So there's 2 nations in your womb. And regarding those 2 nations,
They shall be divided.
they shall be divided, which means they're not going to be allies, I don't think, huh? It's going to be
No,
they'll be enemies.
the line up above that, you might want to change our womb to your womb. I thought that's what you had said.
Oh, thank you. In your womb. In your womb. They shall be divided. And regarding that struggle, how should you interpret this?
But
Which one?
the younger's gonna win.
Yes, the older shall serve the younger. So if you're wondering which nation has my blessing, which of these 2 sons is going to carry the banner, it's the younger, not the older. That will go against pretty much all the traditions of this world. In this case, it's the younger that will be the one to keep an eye on. So basically, the younger is chosen of the Lord, not the older. Okay. So let's pick it up from there and see what happens. 24 to 28. Rob Roy, you want to get that for us?
When her days to give birth were completed, behold, there were twins in her womb. The first came out red, all his body like a hairy cloak. So they called his name Esau. Afterward, his brother came out with his hand holding Esau's heel. So his name was called Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. When the boys grew up, Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, while Jacob was a quiet man, dwelling in tents. Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game, but Rebekah loved Jacob.
All right. So so Isaac is now 60 years old. First, now let's talk about the boys here. So Esau, what are we told about him? Is the firstborn.
He's a hairy hunter.
He is a hairy, like a cloak here, which is what Esau means. If I'm not mistaken, Esau means hairy. And what else are we told?
Jacob was a mama's boy.
Yeah. Well, also he was regarding Esau, he's hairy. He also came out red, which is why, by the way, he is called Edom.
Right.
It means red. So you're going to see that later on. So Esau is hairy and he's red. And what else are we told about him?
He's a hunter.
He is a skillful hunter. Okay. And
Isaac's favorite.
Isaac loved Esau. Why does he love Esau?
Because he likes the food
Because-
Esau brings him.
Yeah, he loves his food because he ate of his game. That's going to be a big deal here. as the story continues, this whole idea of food and the appetite and things being exchanged, and Isaac, even at the beginning, is sort of taken into this scene here as he is captivated by the food that his son Esau is bringing to him. All right. Meanwhile, we have Jacob. Esau's the older, Jacob is the younger. And what are we told about him? Yeah, first off, he comes out
Holding
Holding on
Esau's
to Esau's heel.
holding Esau's heel, which is why he's called Jacob. You know what Jacob means?
Yeah, the deceiver.
Yeah, it means two things. It literally means he grasps the heel, which is sometimes a euphemism for a deceiver, someone who deceives and we're going to see that with Jacob. There's going to be some deception going on in his life. That's going to be a pattern in which he takes advantage of people, others take advantage of him. That seems to be a pattern for him. And so even from the very beginning, we can see that this isn't when God says that, Jacob I loved, Esau I hated, and he chooses one over the other before they're even born. You never get a sense that God chooses Jacob because he's worthy, that he has earned this place. This is purely grace. So getting a lot of text right now, if you can hear the bell going off. All right. Let's see. Let's pick it up from there. What are we told about Jacob?
Dwells in the tents.
He's a quiet man who dwells in tents. In tents. Okay.
He likes to do housework, I guess.
Yeah, he sounds like a gentle guy.
Yeah, he's a gentle guy. He's a gentle guy, right? And we are told that in this case, Rebecca loved Jacob. We're not told why did Rebecca love Jacob. We're told why Isaac loved Esau, because of the food he made for him. But Rebecca loved Jacob.
But God gave her the words that Jacob was going to be the leader.
Yes. So the first thing is, we don't know, did Isaac ever get the word of the Lord from Rebecca? We don't know if he knew, because the Lord spoke specifically to her. We don't know if she told that to Isaac or not. We're not sure if Isaac knew. But for our case in this story, Rebecca is in line with the word of the Lord. Isaac, for whatever reason, is not. That's going to be key as we go through our story here. Rebecca she understands the destiny here. Jacob is the one who is chosen. Isaac is favoring Esau. So let's go to our next story here. So 29 down to 34. Bob Thomas, you want to get that?
Sure. Once when Jacob was cooking stew, Esau came in from the field, and he was exhausted. And Esau said to Jacob, "Let me eat some of that red stew, for I am exhausted." Therefore his name was called Edom. Jacob said, "Sell me your birthright now." Esau said, "I am about to die. Of what use is a birthright to me?" Jacob said, "Swear to me now." So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate and drank and rose and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright.
Okay. All right. So now we have a situation here. How does this start here? What's Jacob doing?
Cooking
Okay.
stew.
All right, he's cooking stew. All right, he's cooking stew. He's dwelling in his tents. He's cooking stew. All right, it's a and then Esau is so we'll say like Jacob. It seems like Jacob is home cooking stew.
Sounds like it's vegan stew.
Yeah, I think it's a lentil stew, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, lentil stew, right? Cooking red lentil stew. All right. Esau comes in from the field and he's exhausted. It's okay. Exhausted and coming in from the field. And what happens in the story? So how does this tension begin? What's going on?
Esau wants food. Jacob says, I'll sell it to you for your birthrights. And he
All right.
says, yeah, all right, give it to me.
Yeah. So Esau asked for food and he's too tired to make anything for himself. Just give me some food right now. He's a man of the moment. It's like, I'm hungry right now. Give me food. It's right. I can smell it and it's right there in front of him and ask for food. He's just really hungry. And Jacob basically says, let's make a deal. He offers food in exchange for the birthright. Now, when you think about that, what does the birthright mean?
The inheritance of the older.
Birthright is the inheritance. So basically, the older would get, I think, 2/3
Yeah.
of the property. 2/3 goes to the older. And with that, the blessing of the father. And so Jacob offers food. He says, I'll give you a bowl of soup in exchange for the birthright. Just give me the birthright. I'll take the inheritance. I'll take 2/3 of the inheritance. You can have all you want. Esau then says what?
I'm
No
going to
good to
die
me
if
if
I
I'm
don't get
dead.
something to eat.
Yeah, I'm about to die. Of what use is a birthright to me right now, basically? Now, is he really about to die?
Not likely.
I would tend to doubt that. I would tend to doubt. I mean, in essence, basically, it's not as if Esau was not allowed to eat anything. He could have easily gone and made his own soup. I'm sure his mom would have happily, let him do that. He could have gone and hunted some game or whatever it is. He's exhausted. He's too tired of the moment to take the effort to go and make his own meal.
It's
And
like
so-
us saying, I'm starving.
Yeah, yeah. And so he sells him his birthright for a bowl of soup. The lesson of the story is, did Jacob deceive him?
He took advantage of him, but I don't think he deceived him.
Did not deceive him at all. He did not deceive him at all. There's no amount of deception in this at all, was there?
No.
He saw an opportunity and he took it. Your conclusion of the matter is this, is that Esau despised his birthright.
You didn't think much of it, is what you're saying.
Exactly right. Yes. And Jacob valued the birthright. I'll give you an example. There's a meme going around on the internet. It's kind of a funny one of a little boy sitting at a table, and his dad comes up to the table and he puts on one side of the table, he puts $10,000 cash on the table. And the other side, he puts 2 Oreo cookies. And he says to his son, which would you like? You can have either one. He says, and the boy's like 5 years old. And the boy just immediately goes for the cookies. I'll take the cookies. He says, "Are you sure?" He says, yes, yes. He grabs them and takes them with him. And it just shows you, it's like the boy has no concept of the value of the money to the left. He can only see and smell and see. He understands only what's right in front of him in that moment. Esau, which is just shameful when you really see the story here. It's absolutely disgusting that he is so in the moment. That's why Hebrews says that he is godless. If you remember in Hebrews, I think it's chapter 12, he was exactly where 11 or 12, I can't remember what it was. It says of him that let me find it here. Chapter 12. He says, "Don't be godless like Esau, who sold his birthright for a bowl of soup." This is Hebrews 12, 16, and 17. "See that no one is sexually immoral or unholy like Esau, who sold his birthright for a single meal. For you know that afterward, when he desired to inherit the blessing, he was rejected, and he found no chance to repent, though he sought it with tears." So this is Esau's story. He's a godless man, completely in the moment. And even though, you may look at this and say, boy, Jacob's kind of a scoundrel, but he's not. Jacob is shrewd, but Jacob at least values what is truly valuable, and Esau does not.
And he's fulfilling God's word.
Yeah, he is fulfilling God's word. Now, the question is, you can come back to the word of the Lord. Remember, Rebekah loved Jacob. We don't know. Did Rebekah tell Isaac the word of the Lord? We're not sure. But I suspect she told Jacob the word of the Lord, that he's the one. And I suspect that Jacob understood this. And so here was the opportunity for him to get the birthright, because his brother is just so pathetic. He is so immoral and just so compulsive and in the moment, and has no sense of future, that he can get it for a bowl of soup. What a deal. What a deal.
You have to believe that this has been building for a long time, because, I mean, just out of the blue, Jacob saying, "Okay, you want something to eat? Give me your birthright." It's
Yeah.
the feelings about each other and what, that's been growing all along.
Yeah, yeah. And so Esau really is, I mean, again, it's easy to try to come down hard on Jacob, and we'll see later on with Rebekah too, but the real villain here is Esau. He's really corrupt and depraved. That he is in that position to do that. What a fool. What an absolute fool. And so he despises his birthright, and that's the end of that story. I think that's the end of the chapter right now.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we'll break it here, I think. All right. Any last comments or questions on 25? This is be very interesting to see what
That's
happens
been a
next.
pretty good stew.
What is the significance of holding his heel on the way out? I mean, is there more to it than just a deceiver, or?
Well, that's his original name, and yeah, I mean he grasps the heel, and they call him Jacob, and I guess it's
Is
one.
it like symbolizing him fighting to get out first, or
That's a good question.
pulling back on Esau and trying to get out first?
Let me why a baby would be grasping the heel, I don't know.
I can only speculate from a philosophical sense. If you've ever wrestled, your wrestling coach would tell you that if you control your opponent's head, you control your opponent. So when I see that, when I read that, I don't know, Jack. I couldn't answer what you're asking, but it seems like this element of control there.
Yeah.
He is in control of the situation.
Well, I mean, Rebekah went.
If I was crawling out of a tunnel and trying to beat the person in front of me, I might grab their heel to hold them back as I went in front of them. I'm just trying to picture the whole thing, and
Yeah, it's kind of symbolic of sort of like tripping someone up, it's a sneaky way to take someone down, I suppose.
Well, I mean, Rebekah went to God because it was like they were fighting inside her womb.
Yeah.
There was something going on all along, it seemed.
Yeah. It's almost like a wrestling to who will come out first, who will be the one
Yeah.
to be the firstborn. And though Esau is the one who comes out first, he's not the one whom God chooses. So even there, you see the way of works versus grace. It's not the one who is the stronger, the more worthy of them. And you see that in Isaac. I mean, we could say, Isaac explains his love for Esau, and his son's a skillful hunter, and he makes good food. I mean, he loves that. So he brings something to the table. And so Isaac loves him for that. Whereas Jacob doesn't bring anything to the table. He's a quiet man. He dwells in the tents. And it's really, you don't see him really offering anything here. And Rebekah loves him because the word of the Lord is toward him. It's, again, this mystery of God's grace. Of he chooses the younger over the older. And why does he do that? Romans tells us, really, it's the Lord chooses whom he chooses. He shows mercy to whom he shows mercy. That's the Lord's choice. That's how it goes. So that no one can boast about these things. And then in fulfillment of that, toward the end, we see that Jacob is a man, at least the beginning, we see a man of faith in that he is valuing the future, valuing what is coming, whereas Esau is a man of the world. He values what's right in front of him. The man of faith is the one who looks to the future and values. I mean, think about that. He says Jacob values the birthright, which is a big deal, but it's not a big deal right now. It'll be a big deal in their case, like 100 years. These guys live so long. It's going to be a long time coming before it really matters. Right now, it doesn't matter, but it will matter. And that's sort of the way of faith. It's like we are valuing things that don't matter right now, but will matter in the future. And the world is the opposite. They value only what's in front of us in this life right now, and they don't care about eternal life. They don't care about the things that are to come. How many times have you heard people say that? Well, what are you going to do when you die? Well, I'll worry about that when I get there. They don't even think about eternal life. It's just right now in the moment. That's all I can think of. I can't think beyond this life, even though it's so short.
Yeah.
That's the deception. That's the way of Esau. That's the way of Esau. So, all right, let's break it there. Let me stop recording.